you can imagine, there were a lot of cheers, but this is a very muted celebration here. Elizabeth May just made history. She is the first Green Party member to become a member of the House of Commons. She's the leader of the party. They put in so many resources into this particular campaign, in this particular riding. They devoted all the financial resources as well as the labor, the volunteers that they had in this riding. And she only left this riding for 9 days to campaign across the country. It was really locally focused. And obviously it paid off because she is now going to Ottawa and has unseated a Conservative member, a cabinet minister, no less. And think about it, in the last election she tried to unseat Conservative Peter MacKay, didn't win, but did have a significant impact and was able to get some federal funding for her campaign here. But she has been very successful tonight. She's unseated Gary Lunn, and right now there is a party, but like I told you, it is very muted. I think that they're more dismayed about the Conservative majority that is going to Ottawa. And so it's not quite the celebration that everybody thought it would be here.
All right, Robert Gill. Still a historic night for the Green Party. Elizabeth May winning her seat in Saanich Gulf Islands. We're going to check in with some other notables across the country and their ridings and how they've done. Eric Sorensen has some results for us. Eric.
All right, Donna, there are many. We're just going to first, let's have a little quick look at the map of Canada if we still have it. How is that changing tonight, just at a glance? It's a lot more NDP orange than we've seen in the past. Looks like the Conservatives have won up in the Yukon. That's one worth watching. NDP has held in Western Arctic. Nunavut, the Health Minister, Aglukak, has held on to that one. But that's a look at the map as we pan across that. Let me look at that little red dot right in the middle of Saskatchewan. They did it. Ralph Goodale, even when all the Liberals were going down, let's have a look at his board. Ralph Goodale has hung on to win again. The last of the Trudeau Liberals, first elected in 1979, or 74. 1974 for Ralph Goodale. He went back to provincial politics for a while, but there's somebody that might stand in as a temporary leader for the Liberals if they're looking for one. Other notables, Simcoe Gray. Kelly Leach has defeated not just the NDP, but Helena Georges. She had a very tough time, drummed out of the Conservative Party, now drummed out by the voters. Chilliwack Fraser Canyon. Mark Strahl, you might recognize that name. Chuck Strahl, his dad, retired this year, and walking right in his footsteps in the same riding in the Fraser Canyon area, Mark Strahl. How about that? Markham Unionville, one Liberal who did hang on in the GTA, John McCallum, former Royal Bank economist, beating all comers. He won by 25% last time. This time he won by only 3%. So even where the Liberals have won some races, they were very close. If we have anything else you want to see right now, I'm ready to start with them. All right, Donna, back to you.
All right, thanks, Eric. We're going to go back over to Saanich Gulf Islands for Elizabeth May's victory speech.
From a very boisterous bar on Salt Spring Island, where I called again there. And I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart. Marilyn Rediva was up here earlier, our volunteer coordinator, herself a volunteer, coordinating the work. And listen to this, Canada. Listen to this. Coordinating the work of the 1,000 volunteers on the Saanich Peninsula, the 700 volunteers on Salt Spring Island, and altogether 2,000 volunteers from Saanich Gulf Island who today made history. Today we proved all know this, we ran a very non-partisan campaign. We ran a cooperative campaign. I need to start by sharing with you that I had a very gracious telephone call just moments ago from Gary Lunn congratulating me on this victory.
And history for the Green Party, electing their leader, Elizabeth May, the first Green Party member to be elected in Canada. We are now going to go over to Carolyn Jarvis and Daryl Bricker. Our huge exit poll that we have, more than 35,000 Canadians. We asked them what they wanted as the outcome of this election, to be a majority or a minority government. Well, we know the answer in terms of votes. What did we find out, Carolyn?
Well, we wanted to know from Canadians who voted today how they were feeling, what their appetite was for change, and whether or not tomorrow morning they'll wake up happy. And what did they say?
Well, actually, 56% of Canadians say that they'll be waking up happy because they wanted to have a majority government.
And they got that indeed. And what was driving them when they were heading to the polls? We talked a lot about voter fatigue. And so one of the questions we asked them was, I hope somebody wins a majority so I don't have to have another election for a while.
Well, as we saw with the NDP vote, there was a fair amount of anger behind that. For the Tory vote, it was really a certain group of people who were saying, I want stable government. I don't want to have to go to the polls again for a while. So they were voting for not having to go to the polls for a while.
And tally this up on the left side of the screen here. That's
64.
Upwards of 60% of people who agree with the statement. I just don't want another election.
Correct.
And when we're talking about Stephen Harper, does he deserve to be reelected? Obviously, we sent him back for a very strong mandate and a very solid majority. Look at these numbers.
Well, the way the Canadian system works, you don't have to have a majority of the votes in order to win a majority of the seats. And we see here that 45% of the population actually did say to us, you know what, come to think of it, Stephen Harper does deserve to be reelected.
Donna, we have yet to hear from Stephen Harper tonight, but he's probably very happy also.
Okay, we will be hearing from him in a little while. I'm sure we're also waiting to hear from the NDP leader, Jack Layton, any minute now about the kind of night that he had. It's going to be a huge celebration there. For now, though, we're going to go to another NDP MP in Edmonton. Strathcona. Linda Duncan, re-elected there. Francis Silvaggio is with her.
Well, Donna, this is the celebration. Linda Duncan has just got off the stage accepting her victory tonight. And this is key. This is sort of that trophy that both the NDP and the Conservatives want. Linda Duncan took this surprisingly back in 2008 by a very slim margin. And tonight, she's increased that margin. So she takes it yet again. So the NDP retains that very small piece of orange NDP pie in this sea of Conservative blue, which at the end of the night, we were all watching to see if it was going to make a difference. It didn't, but it is big bragging rights, and it is in the center of Conservative country. So a big win again for the NDP. Donna?
All right, Francis Silvaggio, thanks very much. We're going to head over to Toronto, where Mike Drolet is at Jack Layton's NDP headquarters. We're just waiting to hear from the NDP leader. Mike.
Yes, we're hearing just trying to figure out exactly when Jack Layton's going to be just coming out to speak to his supporters. We're hearing now it's going to be a couple of minutes. Quite the day for the NDP. Certainly they didn't expect to win 105 seats, and they do have a lot of work left with them. I asked Farr Boulanger, who is the press secretary for Jack Layton, what he was going to do, and of course he's very confident that he can get his the rookie Quebec MPs in order to try to get them up to speed with how things work in Ottawa. But they do have a lot of work ahead of them because a lot of them, they don't speak French very well, so it'll be interesting to see how they handle Quebec politics. So once again, we're waiting any minute to hear from Jack Layton to see what he has to say, but quite a remarkable night here, Donna.
Thanks, Mike. I want to bring our panelists in. The NDP looking to have, what are the numbers now we've got for the NDP? 105 MPs.
Do not adjust your second.
Do not adjust your second. Thank you, Goldie. How many of them know what they're in for? How many?
Have a good whip.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's a good thing that the New Democrats had a good, strong base of members of Parliament going into this with about 36. Those folks will be the backbone.
Right.
If I know the way the New Democrats work, they'll assign each of those 36 to one of the new members, and of course, some of them are going to have two.
Right.
And those folks will be responsible for teaching those members of Parliament their oaths. Now, that said, we do have the 4 years to figure all of this out, and suffice it to say, there are going to be bumps along the road. There are going to be mistakes. but most certainly the New Democrats will work through them as they mature into this new role as opposition.
You can talk about staff all night long. They all need to be staffed up too, and that's
going to be a huge challenge.
Big challenge.
And we're a unionized staff environment within the New Democrats. Shocking. Which is going to cause an additional level of interesting problems.
Oh, we're not even there yet. We're not even there.
This is something that we dropped, a thread we dropped before that I want to pick up on. That's the per vote subsidy, which is something that's going to, the Tories have said if we get a majority, we're going to introduce this, which will have...
We're going to get rid of that. You know, I'm not quite sure why that became an issue with the Tories.
Let's talk about the effect that'll have on some of the parties.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure that the Tories will lead right now with that. If they do, it seems to be a ridiculous thing to do.
What, like, it's punitive?
It's petty. It's absolutely petty.
No, there's a principle. There's a principle about that.
And what is that principle?
Political parties should be able to go to the people and raise the money they need to run an election, not tax it away from people, because that's your tax dollars going to a party you don't support.
You know, I'll tell you something. In the United States of America, candidates spend the majority of their time raising funds.
We're not talking about the United States of America. We're talking about Canada.
But that's the way
system that worked long before it was introduced. We had the old system. We just want to go back to the old system.
Well, I'll tell you the benefit. I'll tell you the benefit today of that per vote subsidy is the number of women that were elected in this Parliament directly.
Nothing to do with
Yes, it does. Absolutely, it does.
Subsidy.
What does it have to do with it?
It has to do with, you have to look at what we got rid of. We got rid of big corporate and big union donations, and we said in return for that we were going to have a public base for parties to operate from so that they can build their policy, build their nation without having to be beholden to political action committees and lobby groups. And in the United States, they have that problem because they have most of their monies, they have to start raising in the millions of dollars through political action committees, so it's very difficult to have policy just built for the ordinary person, and that was the quid pro quo. So we did get rid of big corporate and union donations, and we created a public climate, which has actually worked very well for all the parties. If Elizabeth May is there today...
for the Bloc Quebec Bloc. They were subsidized.
Okay, but you can't use that argument
Well, not now. I understand that.
I know.
But the point is that the system is not the system that I think that we were accustomed to, which is money follows message. Political parties should be no different than businesses. You need to have a message.
Business and labor put $25,000 donations on the table.
You can reform that piece.
And we did.
But it was reduced. It was reduced. There was limits. There's limits in Canada. It's not like the United States. There's limits in Canada.
Exactly. It is very different because of the legislation that we brought in. It's been legislation.
I want to bring in, while we wait for NDP leader Jacques Layton to speak, I want to bring in Jacques Bourbeau, who is in Calgary at Stephen Harper's headquarters. What are you hearing from strategists there, from people around you, Jacques?
Well, certainly I think the people here are ecstatic that they finally won a majority government. And Donna, one of the things I'm going to be looking for is that, of course, the Conservatives have lost some cabinet ministers. So what are they going to do with that? Because one of the things I've noticed since Stephen Harper has been in power is that he has not, he's really not demoted many people from his cabinet or promoted people in. When we have cabinet shuffles, it's really just moving the deck chairs around a little bit. So for me, one of the things to watch for once Stephen Harper gets back to Ottawa is what is he going to do with his cabinet? How much, how many new faces we see in that cabinet?
He's lost Lawrence Cannon, for one. That's a big one.
Absolutely. And the other dynamic I think is going to be interesting with the NDP now as official opposition is I think there's going to be more of a stark ideological divide between the government and the official opposition. And also a thing to watch for is all those new Quebec, NDP MPs from Quebec. How much are they going to push Jack Layton to start demanding some movement on the constitutional file and other things that Layton was talking about during the campaign? So for Stephen Harper, it's going to be a different experience because he's going to be facing a party, an official opposition that I think is going to have a very different lines of attack than the Liberals did.
Goldie, what do you make of that?
I think we haven't talked much about the dynamic between Mr. Harper and Mr. Layton. I think it's an area in which...
What is the dynamic? What's their relationship like?
You've heard they have a very good relationship.
Do they?
It's not well known, but I know that they meet quite often and have
a beer?
It's a good relationship. It's cordial, but the dynamic...
I don't think they have a beer.
But they have a better relationship than Michael Ignatius and Stephen Harper.
And certainly a better relationship than is known in the public.
And what's the basis of that?
Trust.
Well, I think that, you know, it comes right back to where we started originally on this whole discussion about the need in minority parliaments to work together. And the Prime Minister, despite all the criticism he gets, you know, about being autocratic and stuff, he has proven over almost 5.5 years, that he